Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The icy Chicago wind swept across the city's worn sidewalks, sending shivers down the spines of anyone without a home. In a narrow alley, between gray buildings and fogged-up windows, two figures stood side by side. Malik, 12, his face etched with wear and tear, held his old guitar with its threadbare strings. Beside him, Elijah, 10, drummed on metal cans and pieces of wood, trying to create a rhythm that would captivate passers-by. They had been orphans for several years. Their mother, worn down by life in the neighborhood, had died when they were still young children. Their father had never been there. The street had become their home, music their only refuge. Every note was a cry for survival, every drumbeat a promise to stay strong, no matter what. Hurried passers-by sometimes glanced at them, rarely with interest, often with disdain. A few coins fell into their hat, but it was barely enough to buy a little food for the day. Yet Malik and Elijah played with passion, as if their music could erase the cold, the hunger, and the indifference of the world. That day, something was about to change. As they played, a black car pulled up to the curb. The driver, an elegant man named Jonathan Whitaker, got out and listened for a moment, captivated by the purity and power of the two brothers' raw talent. Whitaker saw beyond poverty, beyond the streets, he saw potential. Unbeknownst to them, Malik and Elijah had just crossed the threshold into a new life. A life where music would no longer be just a means of survival, but a weapon to transform their destiny and that of children like them. Their path had just crossed that of a man who would change everything. And in the Chicago cold, on that icy sidewalk, their notes resonated with a silent promise: the world would hear them. A light rain fell on the Chicago sidewalks, making the cobblestones slippery and the streets deserted. Malik and Elijah were still playing in their usual spot, their improvised instruments echoing in the damp air. Hurried passers-by barely glanced at them, their eyes sliding over them as if they were insignificant scenery. Suddenly, a black car with tinted windows slowed down in front of them. The engine turned off, and a man stepped out with a confident stride. He wore a dark wool coat and a stylish hat, and his piercing eyes seemed to scan not only the street, but their very souls. "Hello, boys. My name is Jonathan Whitaker," he said in a calm but firm voice. Malik paused for a moment, wary. "Hello, sir." Elijah, for his part, watched silently, his eyes wide open. Whitaker took out his wallet and removed several bills, placing them in their hat. This simple gesture made the children's eyes light up. It wasn't just the generous sum that surprised them, but the respect and consideration he was showing them. "I heard you play, and I must say you have a rare talent. You are better than many professional musicians I know." Malik felt his heart beat faster. He had never heard such words, not even at the free music school where he had tried to enroll. Whitaker continued, "I want to help you. Not just today, but truly. I can offer you a safe place to live, food, and most importantly, a mentor to teach you how to perfect your craft." Elijah squeezed his brother's hands. They had never dreamed of anything so grand, and yet, deep down, they knew it was real. "But, why are you doing this for us?" asked Malik, incredulous. Whitaker smiled gently. "Because the world needs talent, and talent deserves to be seen. You have something that no one can take from you. Let me help you show it." For the first time in years, Malik and Elijah felt a glimmer of hope. Their survival was no longer just a matter of throwing coins in a hat. There was a chance for them to get off the streets, to show the world what they were truly worth. Whitaker invited them into his car. They hesitated for a few seconds, but the man's encouraging gaze dispelled any fear. In that car, they didn't yet know that their lives were about to change forever. And as the vehicle drove away in the light rain, the notes of their guitar and drums seemed to transform into a promise: their destiny had just changed. Jonathan Whitaker's studio was a world apart. The walls were covered in acoustic panels, the instruments gleamed in the warm light, and an atmosphere of creativity hung in the air. For Malik and Elijah, it was like stepping into a dream they had never dared to believe in. They were greeted by Samantha Hayes, an accomplished musician and coach renowned for her keen eye and patience. She had worked with famous artists, but that day, her eyes fell upon Malik and Elijah with genuine curiosity. "So, you're the famous street boys?" she asked, with a sly smile. Malik nodded shyly, while Elijah clutched his drum to him. Samantha knelt down to be at their level. "You know, raw talent is rare, but raw talent that's hungry to learn is even rarer. And I feel you have it." The following weeks were intense. Every day, Malik and Elijah spent hours rehearsing. Malik perfected his guitar, learning complex chords and finger-picking techniques, while Elijah explored percussion, transforming his small improvised drum into a complete and rhythmic drum kit. They learned to compose together, to harmonize their voices, and to play for imaginary audiences, developing their confidence. Whitaker offered them not only shelter and food, but also an environment where their talent could fully flourish. One evening, after hours of rehearsal, Samantha sat down with them and said, "You know, it's not just the music you're learning to play, it's life. Every note, every pause, every rhythm, it's a reflection of who you are and what you can achieve." Malik and Elijah exchanged a glance. For the first time, they understood that music was no longer simply a means of survival on the streets. It was a way to rise above, to be heard, and perhaps even to change their destiny. A few months later, Whitaker organized a small private performance in his living room. Influential producers and musicians were there, curious to discover these two street kids. When Malik and Elijah began to play, silence fell. Their performance was vibrant, sincere, and deeply moving. At the end, applause rang out, and several contacts offered them professional recording contracts. For Malik and Elijah, the journey that had begun on a cold sidewalk had just reached a new milestone. They were now on the verge of stepping out of the shadows and showing the world what they were truly capable of. The big day had arrived. Malik and Elijah were about to give their first official concert in Chicago's historic theater. The lights shone on the stage, and the audience waited with anticipation. Journalists, producers, and curious fans filled the seats, some unfamiliar with their story, others already touched by the rumors surrounding these two child prodigies from the streets. Behind the curtain, Malik felt his heart pounding. His hands trembled slightly, but Elijah gave him a reassuring look. "We've done this hundreds of times, little brother. We know how to do it." Malik nodded, taking a deep breath. When they stepped onto the stage, a respectful silence filled the room. Malik placed his fingers on the strings of his guitar, and Elijah gently struck his drum. The first notes soared, pure and powerful. The audience was instantly captivated. Every chord, every rhythm, every breath told a story of survival, courage, and dreams. As the concert progressed, the faces in the audience transformed, smiles of wonder, silent tears, clasped hands. The emotion was palpable. Malik and Elijah played as if every note could change the world, and in a way, that's exactly what they were doing. At the end of the performance, silence gave way to a standing ovation. The applause was deafening, and some spectators wept with emotion. The journalists present frantically jotted down notes, eager to tell the world the story of the two brothers from the streets who became prodigies. After the concert, Whitaker embraced them. "You did more than just play music tonight. You touched hearts, and you showed what determination and talent can achieve." Malik and Elijah looked at each other. For the first time, they understood that their music was no longer just a way to survive. It had become their voice, their way of showing the world who they really were. In the days that followed, their story spread across the country. Television programs, newspapers, and social media all spoke about them, recounting how two orphan children, playing on the cold streets of Chicago, had won hearts through music. Malik and Elijah had become a symbol of hope and resilience, proving that no matter where you come from, talent and perseverance can open unimaginable doors. Success had transformed the two brothers' lives. Malik and Elijah were no longer the children wandering the streets of Chicago, they had become renowned artists, admired for their talent and respected for their journey. But despite everything, they hadn't forgotten their roots. Jonathan Whitaker encouraged them to think about what they could do for children who, like them once, struggled to survive on the streets. Inspired, Malik and Elijah decided to create the Harmony Foundation, a project dedicated to providing instruments, music lessons, and mentorship to disadvantaged children. The foundation's first center opened in a working-class neighborhood of Chicago. Malik and Elijah taught there themselves, passing on more than just musical techniques. They conveyed hope, self-confidence, and the belief that every child could surpass themselves. "Music saved us," Malik told the children who were listening attentively. "And it can save you too. But you have to believe in yourself, every single day." Elijah added with a smile, "And never forget, your story matters. No matter where you come from, you can change your destiny." Years passed, and the foundation reached hundreds of children, offering them not only instruments and lessons, but also an environment where they were respected and encouraged. Malik and Elijah then understood that their personal success only had meaning if it served to help others shine. One evening, at a concert organized to fund the foundation, Malik and Elijah stood on stage and observed the audience. Among them were former street children, now artists or simply confident in their future, smiling and applauding. The brothers realized that their music, born in the cold and insecurity, had created a true virtuous circle. Their talent had changed their lives, and now it was changing the lives of an entire community. As the lights dimmed and the final note faded away, Malik and Elijah exchanged a silent glance, filled with gratitude and pride. Their adventure, which began on a freezing sidewalk, had transformed into a story of hope, resilience, and change. And somewhere in Chicago, the notes of their guitar and drum continued to resonate, inspiring other children to believe that talent, perseverance, and passion can truly change the world.